Anyway, that's where we are. Well, since we're speaking about Prop 22, and this is where like that there's gonna be that cut to, so we can like cut it up into separate segments.
Oh, here it comes.
Let's move on to main topic number 2. And I at first was not going to make a video about this. I didn't think there was a lot to say about it, but the more I thought about it, the more it's like, this is actually a little bit more interesting when you really, really digest it. So let's look at this article from the Los Angeles Times. And it has a very grabbing headline. Uber and Lyft just made their campaign to keep exploiting workers the costliest in history. Now, this is an opinion column. It's not a fact-based column.
I was just going to say, I hope that is an op-ed, because that would be a terrible title for a news story.
Yeah. So this word, that's an opinion. But inside, there is some interesting numbers. Like, let's doff our hats off to Uber, Lyft, and their fellows in the gig economy. Having created a model of exploiting workers and obnoxiously browbeating local officials to get their way, opinions, it should be noted, but opinions I agree with. They have now set a record for spending on a self-interest ballot proposition.
Have they really? Wow.
Yeah, the $70 million in new contributions to their campaign to pass Prop 22 on November's ballots, disclosed Friday, adds to the more than $110 million already contributed, bringing the total to $181.4 million that has been spent to try to get Prop 22 passed. And we're still like more than a month away from the actual election. So anyway, this guy goes on to make a lot of sarcastic, funny comments about how this is an obscene amount of money being spent to continue to exploit workers. And again, you can agree with that or not, but I really had to stop and look at that, like $181.4 million spent. I mean, Uber has never spent a cent to try to treat their drivers better, but they are spending $184.4 million for this thing to pass. And I don't know, what do you think of that? Because I mean, you've made enough videos to know that when Uber has a position, it most likely cannot be trusted. They've usually got ulterior motives. They're usually not holding this position in your interest. They're holding it in their interest. And the fact that they're spending this kind of money to get it passed, what does this say to you about what Uber thinks of all this?
Well, I knew from the start that come January 1st, nothing was going to change. I'm talking about this past January. I knew nothing was going to change because I knew that they would fight that tooth and nail. I knew they would never concede. What it shows me is that they are more nervous than even I thought they were. If they're pumping this much money in, they're really, really running scared. The other thing that scares me, though, is, and I mentioned this in a video I did a week or two ago, that they are authoring this proposition. I don't know exactly who authored it and you know what the conglomerate was that put this thing together, but I dissected this about a week ago, and there was one term in there that really shook me up, and that was the way that they determine how much you drive. And it was being defined as from the time you accept a ride until that ride ends. And anyone here that's in this room knows that a lot of your time is, I mean, sometimes you can get ride after ride after ride, but if you take the actual time that you are actively, from the time you accept the ping till the time you end that ride and you drop someone off, that is really different from how much time you put in, like driving, for example, to pick up that fare.
Right.
And I'm thinking, this is terrible. That's terrible. And to think that either it's going to be AB5, which I think is terrible, or it's going to be Prop 22, which I think is terrible. What I really think is going to happen, and I know you didn't ask me this, but my prediction is neither of those things is going to end up being what really happens. I think something, I'm not sure what it is, we won't know until after November 3rd, but something is going to bring them both back to the table. And I think you're going to have to get the zealots out of the room. I think people like Gonzalez is going to have to be out of there because she doesn't understand. She thinks she's doing good, or maybe she's just doing political posturing, but she really doesn't understand the ramifications of her own legislation.
All right.
But I do think that neither one of those is good for a driver. And I think, we're hearing these people here in the room that talk about how successful they are. I bet those people would not want to operate under either one of those models.
Probably not. But, again, we're talking about Uber as the company. And by the way, we're just talking about Uber. I mean, this is not even considering the money that Lyft and DoorDash and, well, I guess Postmates is now Uber.
Oh, that was just Uber? Okay.
Yeah, that was just Uber.
Yeah.
So,
well, of course, Uber's the big boy in the block too, and others know they can come along for the ride. It's kind of like being Canada. Canada doesn't have to pump a whole bunch of money into their defense because they're sitting next to Big Brother. So I think that's the same thing when you talk about these other companies. Why would they join in? They don't have to if they know someone else is going to. It's sort of like the UN. Well, yeah, a lot of people aren't going to pay their part because they know the U.S. is going to pick it up. That's kind of where Uber is in the rideshare community.
Yeah, I just think it's really interesting because, I mean, look, I know you don't like AB5. I don't know if I completely like it either. You don't like, but my whole thing is, years ago I used to make eBay videos on my other channel. And one of my big things was that I would complain about PayPal a lot. And eBay got a lot of pressure from people to have alternate payments other than PayPal. They wanted Google Pay. They wanted Amazon payments. They wanted all these things, which we're talking about 10 years ago. So electronic payments wasn't even the kind of business it was today. Well, eBay fought that for so long, and then finally they allowed alternate payment methods called ProPay and Skrill, and they sucked. Basically, eBay allowed the two payment services that were significantly worse than PayPal to be allowed on the platform to basically encourage people to sign up for PayPal. And I remember another eBay tuber out said at the time, if eBay supports it, I'm suspicious of it. I'm kind of that way with Uber. Uber is so far removed from caring about what the drivers want or need that when Uber supports something, I'm suspicious of it. And when they're this much in support of it, to where they're like breaking records on money that's spent on a piece of legislation, I cannot really help but think that, I think this thing failing can only be a good thing if Uber wants it this badly. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're, like I said, they're running scared. And if they weren't, they wouldn't be offering up their own option. The problem is, I don't think their option is a good one either. And I think California drivers are between a rock and a hard place, quite frankly. And I think they are there largely because of the shenanigans and hijinks that Uber and Lyft were pulling anyways with the way that they started paying, and we've that's all water under the bridge or over the dam or wherever the hell the water goes. But, we've discussed this ad nauseum. I just think that they led themselves here. And so as a result, people are overreacting, and AB5 was an overreaction. And as a result, we're in a bad place right now. And Uber is scared. Drivers are scared. I don't know anyone that's happy right now with that situation.
No, I don't know anyone who's really happy. And one of the sad things about this is, of course, my own personal opinion is I've really been pretty vocal in the last year or so, probably more so than any other Uber tuber, I'm probably obnoxiously harsh.
You obnoxious? Nah.
Yeah, no, I'm just a little obnoxious. When I tell people to get out of this, and I push them and I tell them, look, whether they deactivate you or there is a situation that pushes you out, you're not doing this forever. And they're not going to protect you. And, you know, unfortunately,
sure.
we know some people, including one other UberTuber who was forced off the platform in the most unusual way. And thank goodness he's all right. But, you know, it's the bottom line is like all these people get deactivated or they get pushed out and then they're stuck. And so maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm perfectly okay with AB5 or even this standing, because it's like, you know, the pain's got to come sooner or later. Just push them out now, for, you know, because otherwise they're just gonna, people just keep doing this until they are, because some people, because they get stuck in a rock and a hard place anyway with this.
See, I've never agreed with that philosophy throughout the baby with the bathwater. Yeah, I just don't. You know, I have a friend that, well, I don't want to get into politics, but that made a similar thing, you know, years ago. And he said, well, it's got to get bad before it gets good again. I disagree with that. I think, you know, all this is going to lead to is further legislation. I mean, that's ultimately what's going to happen. Whatever happens with the election, whether with AB5 or Prop 22, it's going to change again because people are constantly going to be challenging it. And I think they're spiraling down a rabbit hole there in California.
Well, and the reason I agree with it in this particular case, I don't always agree with this, but it's a case-by-case basis. But Uber has just shown no interest in improving it whatsoever, and they've proven, even with this thing, like they basically had how much time to figure out an employee-based, what an employee-based Uber would look like, and then they threatened to shut down their services because apparently they didn't figure this out, which of course they have just shown that they are so uninterested. In fact, they are actually almost dedicated to going against.
See, I disagree with that too. I think they know. I think they have 7 plans, 10 plans, 20 plans. I think they're not going to roll them out. Why would they roll out a reasonable plan if they don't have to?
That's what I'm saying, though. I'm saying that is what I did say, that they have plans. They just are dedicated to not making this any better. So look, if all you're going to be doing is legislating this from here until the end of eternity anyway, then just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Let someone else who might do this properly do it.
Oh boy! So now you open the door and you want to talk about Trip, huh?
No, 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 I do not. But anyway, folks, that's the end of that topic. So, what do you think about this? We'd love to know. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Mark? I'm sure you agree with Mark more, but what the heck? Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly.